It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 177 today. Really glad that you're with us on this Saturday morning or whenever you are listening, enjoying clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. So come on in. The pool feels like $1,000,000. The hot tub is going full blast. The grill is going full bore. And by the way, as I overlook the patio grill area from the studio windows, our grill master today is Will Forrest. He flew in last night, and we're pleased as punch to have Will Forrest, naturist fiction author, as our grill master today. We have fruits and vegetables off to the right, cold drinks off to the left, hot drinks inside, and if you leave the pool area, we have a hammock, we have putting greens, we have bocce ball action. Come back in the screened-in area, we have that cigar bar in the back left corner. Help yourself. We even have extra lotion, extra towels, and extra chairs. So just come on in, enjoy clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. Well, on today's show, part one of my interview with ERICH SCHUTTAUF. He is the current and longtime director for ANNR in Kissimmee, Florida. And of course, as you can tell by the music, at least I think there's music. Let's listen together, see if we hear this going on together. Oh yes, I can hear the music. I'm sure you can too. It's time for the great, the terrific, the one and only, the completely over-the-top, fully clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the one-of-a-kind, the completely clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing pretty well. It's just been a crazy morning. You know how traffic is and everything else. So crazy morning.
Well, at least we're not in Los Angeles, for example. I know a guy who, I think he lives 5 miles from his office and takes him an hour to drive there.
It's very scary. California is very scary.
Yeah, so he either rides a bike or walks, depending on the day or what he has going on. But can you imagine 5 miles and it takes you an hour? And he wasn't exaggerating.
I've been in really heavy traffic, but 5 miles in an hour is a pretty bad situation. And then you have to dodge all the police chases in California. So, you know, life is good out on the West Coast, isn't it?
Well, it does give them extra time to listen to our show. So there is an advantage to that.
There certainly is. So we'll just let them, sit in the car in traffic for, forever and ever. It works.
That's
Got
right.
lots of episodes to listen to.
Well, how's it been going as far as getting outside and the sun and all that good stuff, clothes free?
It's been going very well. However, there is rain predicted. So right now, this might be the last day or maybe morning that we have a little bit of sunshine. So I'm not happy about that. I don't mind rain for a day or two. After 3 days, I'm claustrophobic and upset. I can't deal with it. So, all right, we'll see what happens.
Well, you recently mentioned you enjoy being out in the rain from time to time.
Well, yeah, just to run out and maybe just feel the rain on your body, I think is really, it's like jumping in the pool or in the ocean. You get that water feeling, and usually the summer rains are warm, so it feels really fun. I mean, it's just an exhilarating experience, but I don't like to stay out, until I'm totally and completely drenched. Although I have done that. I've run outside in a really heavy downpour too. The only thing I haven't done is jump in the snow naked. I won't do that.
That's hard to do in Florida.
Yes, it is. Even where I was when it snowed, no.
Okay. Well, then I've done more in life than you have. How about that?
Yes, I know you have. You've done
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Silly man. Run out and jump in the snow and naked. No.
Not for a long time, though. It's been many years since I pulled
Yes.
that stunt. So uh,
Yes.
you
Yes.
could say I'm getting smarter as I get older, but that might be a stretch as well. Who
Yeah, I'm
knows?
thinking that would be a stretch. But anyway.
All right. Well, as everybody knows, we gave up paid work to do this show for free and no regrets. We're enjoying every single second of it. On this episode 177, it even boggles my mind when I read that number and see that number. But we turn to you, the listeners, to help us out on Patreon to meet all the expenses for the show and to recover some of what we lost. We know we'll never make that up, and that's no problem. We knew that going in. But on each show, we do try to highlight two new PPPs, paying Patreon peeps. Lisa Monroe, who do we have today?
We have their newest members are James and Michael. And we thank them very much for joining us and hope they have a great time with us.
Absolutely. James, thank you very much. Michael, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our PPPs. And as a reminder, the very top level, you get the most. Every level gets something or some things. And the very top level, you get the video and lots of other good stuff. The top 2 layers get our special content. All 4 layers get our newsletter, once a month. And everybody gets a gift of sorts, right, Lisa? A gift or 2 or 3, depending
everybody
on the
gets
level.
a wristband. And
Yep.
I have a list to send out right now. So they're coming, I promise.
Well, everybody gets a wristband, but as you
Yeah.
go up, you get more gifts when you
Yes.
sign up, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. As you go up. So
All
there
right.
are new things each level.
All right. Well, and to find us, you can go to our website and click on the Patreon link. It's also in the show notes of every single show that we do. So we'd invite you to join us today. We're about to release video of these segments, and we invite you to join in. Let's move
Yes.
on now to merchandise. You are the hostess with the mostest when it comes to merchandise. What's going on in that land?
Well, as I said, we have some new undercover NNN merchandise with just the red leaf on it, so you can, wear it proudly in public and know you're a naturist, but not have to deal with people who are unhappy with that. I got some basic things out first, and now I'm adding a few other things into that line. And we have Naked Nudist and Naturist. We have NNN, and we have Clothes Free, Living for All of the Right Reasons logos as well for you. So it's something
All
for
right.
everybody.
Sounds good. And to find our merchandise store, it's simple, but take us through the process.
Just go to nakednudistandnaturist.com and look for the NNN shop, and everything's right there for you to take a peek at.
All right. Well, very good. And we invite you to do so. Let's move on now. We have a letter from Daniel, and we had referenced a few shows ago. Somebody had written in, or we read it from a script. I don't remember, from a newspaper, a reader, a listener. And they talked about the character Taylor in the Planet of the Apes was nude. And I speculated, was that Charlton Heston? And we didn't really know. Well, Daniel wrote in and said, "Hi to those it concerns or the hosts." I guess that'd be us, right?
I think so. It concerned us, and it may have concerned others, and certainly, so that covers everybody.
That's right. Well, he said Taylor is the Charlton Heston character from Planet of the Apes. And then he goes on to something else, which we'll talk about in a moment. But see, that's what I wish we had more of, is major Hollywood stars. And Charlton Heston, at the time of the Planet of the Apes, I think he was a major star already.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so for him to get on screen totally nude, that just sells it to everybody. He wasn't doing anything untoward or nefarious or sexual. It was just, that's what the part called for. That's what he played. And we moved on because that's life. We were born that way, as everybody knows. Any thoughts on your part about that kind of stuff, meaning Hollywood people just being nude as part of everyday living?
We've discussed the nudity in Hollywood and celebrities that are also naturists before. And I think it's really important to mention these things because, again, these people are not expected to become the bully pulpit for naturism. But the fact is that they enjoy it, and they are. And if more people know that, then it becomes more mainstream because so many people, look up to celebrities, they're fans, they appreciate what they do. And so if they see that these people are normal and they love to be naked, then there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's a very important thing to discuss. And the more that there are, the more mainstream it becomes.
Yeah, that's what I want to see is more scenes of somebody making coffee with no clothes on, somebody on the phone with a friend or a business, no clothes on, because that's how we conduct life in our homes, not whipping clothes off as the sax in the smooth jazz music begins, because that's different. That's a totally different thing, and that's how it's usually portrayed. Clothes come off, must be time for sex. But
Yes.
that's not the case. And
Yeah.
the Charlton Heston character as Taylor in the Planet of the Apes, being nude is what it called for, and it was well done. Now, we have some other Hollywood stars, and we'll get to the rest of Daniel's letter in a minute, but did an AI search, therefore we know it's 100% correct. Major Hollywood stars who have appeared nude. Now, I don't know all of these scenes, but were they done with a come hither or a sexual bent? I don't know. But at least they're big time stars who have appeared nude. And I remember hearing even years ago, uh, the script would call for somebody being naked on screen, and the actor or actress would say, well, why? And basically the answer was to titillate the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then actors, actresses would say, well, then I don't want any part of that. If it's part of the script and it really makes sense, then yes, which makes sense to us as well. So, if you don't mind, can you read maybe the first 5 or 6 stars who have appeared nude and what it says about each one?
Margot Robbie, full frontal scene in The Wolf of Wall Street. Halle Berry, notable scene in Monsters Ball. Kate Winslet, famous scenes in Titanic and The Reader. And I believe in Titanic, if I remember, I saw it only once years ago. She was actually posing nude for the uh, guy to paint her. So it was a very normal thing. We know a lot of nude models for artists that are part of the naturism crowd. And Jennifer Lawrence, she appeared in Red Sparrow. Angelina Jolie appeared in various films, including Original Sin. Anne Hathaway, scenes in Loves and Other Drugs. Robert Pattinson appeared in Cosmopolis. William Dafoe appeared in Antichrist, and Katie Holmes appeared in The Gift.
All right, and then finishing up, we have 2 left. Kathy Bates, known for a scene in About Schmidt. I've never seen that movie,
I haven't either.
but maybe we will now. And Diane Keaton, known for a scene in Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't know all of these scenes. I know
No.
a few of them, whether they were intended for sexual purposes or just clothes free living for all the right reasons. I don't know, but at least there are major stars out there leading the way to some degree. So I guess that's a step forward, at least a little bit, right?
I think it is. And again, one of the things about this is that we're not mentioning it just because they're naked. We're mentioning it because in these situations, this becomes normal. If people get, I guess the word is desensitized to the shock of someone being naked, then they start not thinking it's a bad thing. It becomes part of a normal life. And that's what we kind of want to do, because that's what naturism is. It is going about our lives nude without the encumbrances of these kind of attitudes. And it would really be nice to see if it became more mainstream. And I'm like you, I'd like to see someone, doing the dishes or loading the dishwasher or cleaning the bathtub or whatever, but something that just normal things that we do every day.
That's exactly it. And at the bottom of that, it says, these performances are often discussed for their artistic merit and contribution to the narrative, with many actors noting they chose to be nude for the sake of the character's development. Now, that's what we want. We don't want
Yes.
gratuitous nudity or
No.
the sexual stuff, just it's everyday living and clothes-free living for all the right reasons. We like to see that a lot.
We sure
Now,
do.
going back to Daniel's article after he mentioned that about Charlton Heston, the Planet of the Apes, I just remember that there was an article about nudism from the Atlantic about 3 sisters coming together and because of nudism. I also found interviews of 2 of the sisters where they mentioned their specific introduction. Just thought it was interesting to see how naturism can be a source of bonding for people who aren't the closest. And it's from the interviews The Bat of Minerva, members of Avaton Nude. And I did have a chance to watch. I think I found all 3 sisters. And basically, 2 of the sisters were nudists, naturists, and they were apart. Like the sisters had gone their separate ways in life, lots of issues growing up. And they reached out to the third one and basically said, "We're going to come and pick you up. We're going to a nudist resort." And her answer was, "You got to be kidding me." Long story short, they went. And now all three sisters celebrate clothes-free living for all the right reasons all of the time. And they have bonded like they've never bonded before. Makes total sense to me. How about you?
I think it does. Again, it strips away all those conflicts that they had as young women, all that, all that baggage that we carry with us goes away when we take off our clothes. And it just, it simplifies everything. We become only who we are without all the titles, without all the craziness, without all the things that happen to us, the good and the bad. And there's a lot of bad. So I think it's very important for us to understand that this is a way for people to bond and to become something more than they were.
Yeah. And it's from an article in the Atlantic
Mhm.
in how nudism saved three sisters. That link is in the show notes. You can feel free to click on that and you'll be able to read it and find it on YouTube as well. All right, let's move on now. We have another letter here. This is from Tim, who's in really huge trouble with me. I'll deal with Tim later.
Uh-oh, Tim. Sorry.
His intro is, "Hi, Lisa, Jennifer, and Frank," but I read it as, "Hi, Lisa, Jennifer," long pause, "and Frank," but no, I'm just kidding. We're just
Tim.
glad that you write to us.
Yes.
What you can call us anything you want, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. You want to go ahead and read his paragraph?
I sure will. It says, "Your discussion about new jobs. Can I add a leader of a country to the list? I remember a story a few years ago about how former Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke used to hold meetings at his residence in the nude. A quick Google found the following old article about it. Bob is considered one of our best leaders. Maybe nudity is why."
Well,
Yeah.
how about that?
Yes.
And he
Well, he
did.
was relaxed. He didn't have any
Well,
baggage around him when he was thinking.
that's just it. And
Yeah.
it goes back to that over and over. When you strip the clothes away, everything else gets stripped away.
Mhm.
And he did include the article, and it said Bob Hawke's nude prime ministerial meetings. Former Prime Minister Bob Hawke used to conduct meetings sunbathing in the nude. Well, that's according to his public nemesis, Paul Keating. So now we don't really know if he did or not. The guy who was his archenemy said that he did. We don't know the truth.
No,
but
we don't.
let's go ahead and read that article. It's not too long if you want to start off.
This is from Malcolm Farr, national political editor. Paul Keating has revealed the delicate etiquette involved in a treasurer conducting business with a naked prime minister. And for the first time, he gave a public evaluation of what might have been called the honorable member involved. The former prime minister was launching the Diaries of Gareth Evans inside the Hawke Keating government, an account of the years 1984 to 1986. Mr. Keating used the book to talk about his own place in that period and to continue his insistence it was him and not then Prime Minister Bob Hawke who kept the government going.
All right, I'll take over from there. There were his difficulties with Bob, not least talking to him when he was nude. I'd arrive at the lodge at 10:30 and find Bob sunning himself by the pool. Mr. Keating told a lunch audience at the Australian National University, where Mr. Evans is chancellor, he often used to do this nude, but that's what he did, revealing a story which had long been in circulation to illustrate the Hawke-Keating divide, but which he had never before used in public. So if it's true, you have the leader of a country, in this case Australia, conducting meetings at his home in the nude. See, when I first saw the headline, I thought he's just walking around their version of the White House naked as a jaybird, but it wasn't, just at his own home and at his own pool while he was sunning, which is, again, normal and natural.
Yes.
And it takes me back to something we've said before a few times, many times. Can you imagine all of the meetings that you've been in and I've been in where tensions were high and people were ticked and heads were about to roll, and they were not pleasant meetings at all? Can you imagine conducting those meetings totally close-free? I think it would have changed the tone of the meeting. What do you think?
I think it would have changed the tone of the meeting because, again, it strips away all those barriers. It strips away, who's wearing the $1,000 suit and who's wearing the suit from, the discount place. And it makes a big difference in people. And that doesn't mean one's smarter than the other because they dress better. But it does mean that labels are put on, and so people are less likely to be paid attention to if they're not quite the same way. So I think it's imperative that we think about this. I used to mediate meetings. Kind of got into that from some club organizations I belong to, and I can tell you that when they were debating certain things like changes in the bylaws or whatever, it could get really heated.
Mm-hmm.
And having to try to control and divert those things back to the topic when they got off line could be very difficult. And I often thought, because I had become a naturist by then, I often thought, wow, if I just stripped down, would they pay attention to me and not to each other? And we could get this done because it would just be normal and natural, and that would relieve the tension, and everybody could get naked and we get something done. But unfortunately, that never happened. But I think it is a thing that would really make a difference.
Well, there is one thing that people do at the higher level, which I don't subscribe to, but a lot of people do. They're in these meetings, which is described, dressed to the hilt and arguing and just yelling, and it's awful. And then somebody suggests to another, hey, why don't we meet at such and such a tavern at 5 o'clock today and see if we can hash this out? Now, you wouldn't drink alcohol in the office, hopefully. Some people do, and it's accepted and allowed. But they are openly admitting, let's go to the bar, let's have a few drinks and see if we can resolve this. How about changing that to, okay, this isn't going well. How about if we meet at the nude beach at 5 o'clock and hash this out? So there is some history of doing that using alcohol. Why not clothes free?
I think it's an excellent idea. And I believe that sometimes you have to break the tension some way. And sometimes, like you said, these things can get completely heated and out of hand. And, everyone wants to say their opinion. And so that, I believe, would level the playing field and get people back to focusing on what they need to do. So I think it would definitely reduce the tension, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I still remember that one TV show, can't recall the name, 15, 20 years ago. So when we were little children, I'd walk by and see it on.
Bitty.
And this couple had a rule. If they were about to get into an argument or discuss anything that could get heated, they would get naked first and then stand facing each other. And that just immediately took the edge off. Okay, how can we peacefully resolve this, as opposed to, I'm going to, put your head through the ringer and so on and so forth. So it does work. It does take that corporate thing away. I have a better suit than you, therefore I rule over you. Well, when you're nude, you're just nude, and now we're all on equal footing. Makes perfect sense to us, and if Mr. Keating really did that, I would say, even though he wasn't wearing one, hats off to him. How about that?
Exactly. I think it's an excellent idea, and a lot of our issues would be solved if people just took off their clothes and stopped worrying about everything else. So, and the trick to probably not arguing with your spouse or partner or whatever, it's just don't put clothes on. And that keeps everybody happy.
That's right. I've never seen an argument on a nude beach. I have seen them on textile beaches. Somebody, especially on a crowded one, you accidentally step on somebody's blanket or kick sand on them as you're chasing a frisbee. Hey, you blankety, whatever. On a nude beach, oh, sorry, I stepped on your blanket. No problem. It just, everything is more peaceful, and that's why we're such advocates of this. Any final thoughts before we head to the
I was going to say, I have a prime example of what clothing and accoutrements will do on a beach. I was years ago on the Florida Panhandle beach, somewhere near Pensacola Beach, and let's just say there were a group of Auburn fans and a group of Alabama fans. Auburn fans were sitting down, the Alabama people were walking down the beach. Let's just say because of all the outward support of their teams with their towels and their bathing suits and their everything, the police ended up getting called. So, if they had never had any of that on, no one would have known, and it would have been perfectly fine.
That's a very good point. All right, Lisa, we are off to the interview, and if you promise to stay totally clothes-free, we'll see you at the end of the show. Is that a deal?
We'll be here.
All right, we'll see you then. The very terrific Lisa Monroe does a whole bunch around here. The website, the memes, the merchandise, helps with everything else, including this show twice a week. And we thank Lisa Monroe very much for all that she does around here on a daily basis. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 177 today. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are and whenever you are listening. It's obviously Saturday for us, but maybe you're waiting until Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, whenever that is. Hopefully you can be close-free for the hour as well, but if you're at work or at the grocery store, no chance of that, so don't get yourself in trouble. But wherever you are, we hope you're having a great day and enjoying today's show, episode 177. Now let's get to part one of my interview with the longtime and current executive director for ANNR, ERICH SCHUTTAUF. We are headed a few hours away to the great city of Kissimmee, Florida, not too far from Orlando at all, right to the ANNR office, the American Association for Nude Recreation. We're going to talk to the executive director today, ERICH SCHUTTAUF. He's had a couple of tenures there. We'll talk about that. Glad he's with us today. Glad he's with ANNR. So let's welcome this morning from Kissimmee, Florida, Executive Director of the American Association for Nude Recreation, ERICH SCHUTTAUF. Good morning, ERICH. How are you today, sir?
Good morning, Frank. Doing just great. Delighted to be here on your show and talking to your listeners.
That sounds great. It's as much as we've done for ANNR in the association we've had, you and I have never spoken until this morning. How incredible is that? We should have taken care of this long ago. We didn't, but thank goodness we're here now, right?
Absolutely.
I would normally ask, a guest how the weather is, but you're only an hour and a half away from us. So my weather is probably the same as yours. Was cold, now getting better, right?
It is now getting much better, but weather was a very relevant topic just a couple of weeks ago. We were colder here than they were in Alaska. Somebody shared that factoid with me that parts of Alaska right now were warmer than they were here in Florida. So we weren't used to that, but it's okay because it makes you appreciate it when it's over.
Hey, you and I are both from more northern climates where winter would linger on for weeks or months. Here in Florida, at least where we are, and you're pretty much straight west of us. There's a little difference in north or south, but for the most part, winter is a grand total of a week or two, which we can deal with, but it just seemed a lot colder this year than before. Same with you, or not necessarily?
Oh, absolutely. And, we have lived, my wife and I and our family, since 1991 here in Kissimmee. And I think that it was a colder spell, a longer spell for it. And then certainly throughout the state. Places in Miami that were experiencing the chill. And so, but again, it makes you appreciate when it's past. So,
oh, yeah. And people in the northern U.S. and up into Canada really have no sympathy for us when we tell them some of our plants died because it got too cold. But, we grin and bear it, so to speak, and we move on, right?
Yes, but I can also tell them that I spent time in the trenches of New England. That's where I grew up. And so I've spent many a New England winter. The blizzard of 1978 was there when a kid. And so, yeah, I've done my time in those trenches.
That's right. We've experienced it for sure. We're veterans of the cold and the ice and the snow and all that good stuff. But as it relates to ANNR now, as I understand, you've had two different tenures as the executive director. You left for a brief period in the middle to kind of sort of build up your law practice. Maybe just take our listeners through that. When was your first tenure? How long were you gone? And how long have you been back?
Yes, well, I started working for the AANR in 1998, February of 1998. And at that time, I was a government affairs coordinator. So I tracked and responded to legislation primarily and reported that to the membership. In about the year 2000, I transitioned into becoming its executive director, and I served in that until about 2000, late 2011, early 2012. And then, yes, as you alluded to, because I'm an attorney and I have been for a number of years, I needed to get back actively into the practice of law. I always kept my license up, but there's a big difference between having a license and actively working in cases day in, day out and thinking on your feet in court. And that was a big part of what I had a chance to do for a few years, which was important.
Hmm.
I came back into Anna around 2016, working there, and have been doing that since. I say 2016 to 17-ish, right in there. And I was doing legal work for them at various points all along. So I never really stopped being part of the AANR fabric in that sense, but not actively day to day in the office, if that gives you an idea. The other thing I need to point out is that even though I started working in 1998, my family and I were members of the association going back to 1991.
Oh, okay.
So when my wife and I were pretty early in our marriage, we made a decision that we wanted to go to nudist places and also to raise our family with the values that AANR and that nudists have. Those were all important to us. So really that goes back to 1991 that I started with AANR as a member. And actually it was American Sunbathing Association back in that day.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you able, I'm guessing the answer is no, but are you able to practice law outside of ANNR time wise, or is the ANNR job so busy that there's just no way to run a law practice and ANNR at the same time?
Well, I primarily give my efforts to the AANR and that work now. I do some cases pro bono for the public good. Those are mainly in the area of child advocacy and as a guardian ad litem. So I do legal work that isn't in the office, but I don't do much of it right now, as not nearly as much as I did, when I went back to the full-time practice of law. So it is kind of a little bit of an either or choice. Although I'll tell you right now, and this is kind of interesting to talk about, we have an appeal case before the Florida's Fourth District Court of Appeal. Now that's in the West Palm area, and we filed a friend of the court brief just a couple months ago. In a case involving taught freedom. So it gave me a chance to be back in that a little bit and actively doing an appeal and filing that friend of the court brief. So there's always overlap. I've defended people just last year, some sunbathers on the Canaveral National Seashore, which is very near and dear to Floridians and nudists alike. People were cited because they had a family down at the beach, and a ranger or two did not like it and felt that that was out of place, and so cited them for disorderly conduct. And you know, they needed representation and an ANNR perspective. So I actively did that case in federal court in the Middle District of Florida.
And that one was dismissed, as I recall, correct?
It was. It was
Yeah.
dismissed when we explained not only the legal standard, but the working agreements that AANR and the Naturist Society had with the National Park Service. It kind of they rescinded. They just dropped the charges. What is what I'm saying? We didn't have to go before the judge. We were able to resolve it, which is the way that AANR and I like to operate if possible, to find a working solution rather than having something that has to always come to a knockdown drag out. Often good communication can resolve things, and that's what happened here.
Yeah, I worked forever in part of my jobs were regarding HR. So lots of grievances, arbitration, all that nonsense.
Okay.
And
Yep. If
I
you,
would, and of course, I would hang with attorneys a lot too. So I got
yeah.
to know how they work. And my MO was let's solve this at the lowest level possible with as less pain as possible. And then if we have to jack it up, we will. I'd rather not. You'd probably rather not. So let's just get this done. What can we do to make this work for both sides? It sounds like that's kind of what you go after as well.
Absolutely. And when you talk about arbitration labor, that was my background
Oh, all
coming
right.
out of law school, labor and employment work in the Tampa area of Florida. And just what you're describing, alternate dispute resolution, ways of resolving things, because people are human and people are people, and showing a certain amount of respect often goes a long way. Sometimes you got to have teeth, you got to have the whole thing, but usually there's a way to sit and talk about and resolve differences.
Usually, yeah. Now there are some times where one person, one side, will dig their heels in and say, "No, it's my way or the highway," and I don't want to hear anything you have to say. And I've had attorneys tell me, and then I began to say it too. Sometimes you just got to file a lawsuit to get it done because they're not willing to come to the table and even have a conversation. Now,
Sure.
those are not great days for me when those have to come to fruition. People, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue your butt off. It's like, well, okay, you can do that, but then you get a reputation for somebody who files lawsuits every time you turn around. And so the quickest way, the least painful way, and the most pleasant way to resolve disputes is always the preferred way to go. And I'm glad the other side in this case, which I guess would be the feds, it sounds like they agreed, which thank goodness they did, right?
Yes, it all depends on who's in that place of assistant U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
And it also depends upon doing your homework. We came in with enough of that background to show that this was not unusual or novel on the Canaveral seashore, and explain some of the history, which helped. But yes, they were approachable, reasonable people, and that always helps. Doesn't mean that every case is going to go that way. Often they don't,
Right.
but it's our job ultimately to be there for members in the nudist and naturist community and make sure that it has an advocate to speak up for it. So, and we do that advocacy, by the way, Frank, at all three branches of government. We work in the legislatures, absolutely, right now, because it is early winter. This is primary legislative season where bills are getting filed and we have to respond to those. There are some excellent volunteers within AANR who help us to keep tabs on that and to respond to the legislative branch. But then in the courts, as we've been talking about, whether it is federal or state or local, we work at all of those levels as well. And then also that third branch, the administrative branch of government. So those are agencies like the National Park Service, but the Federal Aviation Administration, and all of those. Mostly it's Department of Interior, Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, the alphabet soup that are those agencies, but we work at all of those and we do them on behalf of members and the greater naturist community.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. Now, as I understand it, being to get your license as an attorney, that's a state by state deal. So,
It is.
unlike being a doctor, as my doctor told me, he said he could practice medicine in any state because it's a federal license. So you are licensed in Florida, but
Correct.
if a case comes up in another state, you have a cadre or a bevy of attorneys who can do the day to day work because they're licensed in a particular state with your guidance.
Well, we're usually working, yes,
Yeah.
with someone that is licensed in that state, someone that a member or person has retained, because I cannot practice law in a state outside of Florida.
Right.
Having said that, what I can share with the member, the individual, and their attorney is all of the case law, all of the experience that we're able to share from many, many decades of AANR's work, ASA's work, and impart that, because most attorneys have never dealt with a nudist issue. Some of
Right.
them may have, but it's pretty rare. So you get a very experienced counsel who understands the procedures, understands the judges where they're working, and all of those things that are critical. But they say, I've never dealt with a nudist case, or I've never dealt with certainly something on this level. And that's where we share the case law, the histories, and the information that we have. And I don't do this alone, by the way. Again, we have some great people on AANR's team. Bob Morton, formerly of the Naturist Society of many years, has lent his experience to our effort. Tim Mullins, who is our government affairs chair, worked for many years in state government in California and all of the agencies, and went up the chain. So you're talking about people who understand government and the various challenges that you might have procedurally and administratively with the personalities involved. It takes a lot of people to build that team. What is also exciting now is that AANR has several people on the government affairs team who are past state lawmakers.
Oh,
We have people who worked in Oregon for many years and now help lend expertise to us. There are some from the mid-Atlantic. These are lawmakers or former lawmakers who give you that perspective when we're writing legal briefing papers, or white papers, as you'd call them, with government, and give us helpful impact. So you got everybody working for it, in one
yeah.
way or another.
That's great to hear. Speaking of Tim Mullins, I first met up with him a couple of years ago. We had him on the show, and I didn't realize just how much work he had done. He's been at this government affairs team thing for what, 15 years or so, I'm guessing, about that.
We started working together quite some time ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if it was that much. And he's put in countless hours,
Yeah.
and most of it happens at night, because when people have crises or we're facing a government affairs issue, those don't happen right conveniently in the middle of the day.
Right.
And so he has my heartfelt thanks, and he really does. And so do the other people on the government affairs team. We call it GAT,
Yeah.
but the GAT folks who volunteer. And they do this in the United States and Canada. We have some very good people on the team who were in provincial government in Canada. And so they're able to share that perspective and help us to navigate what to do or not do in a provincial government situation in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great to hear too. Back to that one case on the Canaveral Beach.
Yeah.
As I recall from reading it, it was basically a dad who had his daughter down there, and that's why they got arrested. Is that basically the premise?
Well, that's the gist of it. Yes. And there was nothing unusual about that day's activity. That family had gone to that beach on numerous other occasions, and nothing out of the ordinary, or persons doing anything to attract attention to themselves. But it's a case of the wrong ranger, wrong day, wrong situation, and getting a citation. That then you have the question of, what do we do with this? And keep in mind, Frank, that when you're cited on the Canaveral seashore, it's a federal issue. You are not in a state court. You are in a federal courthouse because it is on federal property. And so that ratchets everything up in and of itself. The courthouse is more imposing. I mean, it just is. You're in with the mahogany that goes from the floor to the ceiling. The judges are federal judges. I mean, let's be honest there. It's
Yeah.
an assistant U.S. attorney. So even though the nature of the citation isn't a whole lot different, the nature of what you're facing and the imposing atmosphere, all of that works, and people need to have an advocate. They need to have somebody who's willing to walk with you into court, and yeah, and be a little bit aggressive when it needs to be, and a little bit accommodating when it needs to be also. And but we're there so that people don't have to face it alone.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
yeah. I mean, as much experience as you have and as much training as you had, can you imagine somebody with no experience, no training trying to fight that case? They would lose in a half a nanosecond because they just don't know how to navigate.
it can be very challenging,
Yeah.
and without knowledge of the history and without having access to certain documents that not only Anna but the Naturist Society made possible years ago with the Naturist Action Committee and their work, the beach advocate groups that were there, without having some of that documentation and being able to present it to the other side in the case and say, you may not know about this, but you're saying that this family oriented naturism in this location was novel or somehow colored outside the lines. And actually, here are the working agreements that we had with the National Park Service going back to 2000 and showing that it's not new. And also understanding and listening enough to understand that to the Park Service, some things have changed, at least as they see it there, and trying to help resolve some of the issues that they may be up against as well.
Okay. Now, I don't talk. In fact, I don't think I've ever said this on the show. But when in charge of organizations, I've actually written legal papers for courts
Okay.
or different exhibits, whatever. Now they wouldn't go straight to the court; they'd always go to our attorney to make sure I knew what I was talking about. He'd insert, some case law or whatever, and that went on for quite a while. And I remember one time I went in to see our attorney. We're talking about something specific, and he said, "Okay, this requires an unfair labor practice charge." I said, "Okay, great. What's that all about?"
The
So
ULP.
so he explained
Yeah.
it to me, and I, okay, let's do it. And he
Yeah.
said, "But," he goes, "you are not to do this by yourself." He goes, "This is a different ball game, lots of nuances, and if you don't know what you're doing, it'll be thrown out as soon as it arrives." And he started to explain it to me, and there was no need to explain. I said, "Okay, all right." And he said, "I don't care if you hire me to do it. Don't do this yourself." And so that's good
Right.
advice for a lot of people who are not attorneys. Be careful because you could end up getting it tossed out on day one, and then where are you, right?
Right.
Yeah,
What we do try to do is, of course, work to have better laws and better policy in the first place
yeah,
by
yeah,
working with government. And that's the part of AANR that's important that people understand is we actively engage lawmakers at again federal, state, local level, but we also do that proactively by
yeah.
attending legislative conferences like the National Conference of Legislatures every single summer we go, and this is attended by thousands of lawmakers and staff. They are the people in the important positions, things like committee chairs and staffs of governor's offices, etc. And we work a table there. We have professional literature. We have a professional appearance in suit and ties, but we talk with them about nude recreation. So the first time it comes up is hopefully listening to us in a matter of fact conversation rather than in a crisis.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of our membership dues go to have a presence at something like that, so that before it ever reaches a judge, before it ever gets into a bad law being made, we have worked with lawmakers to have a relationship, a contact, a business card, and that applies to all over. I'm going to brag on AANR for a minute because a lot of folks don't realize how much the association has been recognized in state law and local laws for the association as a wholesome, affirming, family oriented experience. And many people are surprised to learn that AANR is mentioned by name in a number of state statutes and given certain courtesies or recognition when it comes to government regulation. So, for example, the state of West Virginia specifically recognizes your association, my association, and exempts it from adult entertainment laws. Why? Because we are the antithesis of that. So we have explained that and built the relationship over years. The same is true in several laws. Florida has certain provisions where they recognize AANR. So does the state of, well, we talked about West Virginia, the state of Tennessee, and there are others that goes on, and many counties also. And the key is to recognize nude recreation as a legitimate household interest, a recreational interest, and position it for that and keep it there. But our reputation is important. It has been earned after 95 years of being in this industry, and we take it very seriously.
Yeah, as you should. And that is probably the biggest knock that I've heard. Curious on your opinion too, is when people hear naked or naturist, hanging out naked, either by yourself or with a bunch of people, they automatically assume it's untoward activity or something nefarious going on. And I've even had people, in fact, I'm dealing with a husband and wife now, people who have known me, liked me, respected me, just thought I was, the greatest thing who ever lived. Then they find out that I'm a naturist or nudist, and then they, Frank, I didn't know you were one of them. We're probably going to back off for a little bit. Now, what do you mean, one of them? And then they would explain, you're having wild parties every Saturday night. I said, absolutely not. And then that would give me the opening to explain. And for the most part, it's worked out pretty well. I said, have you ever seen any kind of that behavior out of me? No, we never have. That's why we're surprised. I said, well, because I don't behave that way. But this one couple, they're still convinced there's something going on. It's like, well, folks, pop in anytime. We'll have people over. Come on over, and you'll see we're just sitting around sipping iced tea like you guys do, except you have your bathing suits on or whatever. So
And we have our birthday suits, and that's really what it's about.
that's it.
And my wife and I and our family our faith community was very important to us. It did lead to occasionally some interesting uh, juxtapositions of things when people learned what I did for a living, but also how we spent our time on weekends, or what family camping was for us. So it does. What we're doing though in the advocacy arm of AANR is trying to address that as well by educating the public about what nude recreation is and what it's not, and mainstreaming what we do. And I'm going to give you the most enjoyable answer that I have right now. I'm delighted to tell you that USA Today, the nation's largest newspaper, right? They ran a piece about nude cruises and bare necessities, and interviewed Linda Weber, who I know that you have talked to, our president,
Mhm.
and talked about the etiquette that one should observe on a nude cruise, and talked about the destinations that one can visit on vacation, etc. And I'd like to think that with that in a newspaper, it gives a couple an opportunity for one of them to pick up the paper and say, what do you think about this article that
Yeah.
or online, as
Yeah.
it often is, just reading this, what do you think about people who take a cruise in their birthday suit, and what this is saying? And it becomes a conversation starter, but it also makes what we do, presents it as mainstream, and it is mainstream. It's what we just enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Linda sent that article to us, and I had a chance to read it. An absolutely excellent article. She got all the main points in, kind of what we've already talked about. We do the same things you do, except we do it clothes free and no sexual activity. That's a totally different ball game altogether. And so little by little, we're getting there. And we've had a number of people who have contacted us, listeners, and I think in every case, it's been the man of, a couple, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, whatever, where the man is into naturism, wants to go to a nudist resort or nude beach or just hang naked around the house, and the wife or girlfriend says, no, I don't think so, there's something weird about that. And so they'll ask us information either for us to write something down so they can just hand it to the girlfriend or wife and say, well, here, why don't you read this? Or they'll ask for snippets of shows when either a guest or I or Lisa have said something. Can you just capsulize that 3 or 4 minute segment and send it to me? Because my wife will not sit here and listen to a whole show because she thinks it's weird. But if she hears these 3 or 4 minutes, maybe it'll open her eyes and then she will listen, and then we can get to the nude beach. And in most cases, that's actually worked out. When people find out the truth, all of a sudden the eyes are open, the light goes on, and life is great after that. But it's our job collectively to get that done, right?
It is. And you've mentioned, your show, which is a great way to educate and answer questions. Our websites collectively also help to that. AANR.com has sections about a woman's perspective on nude recreation. It also has My Family Shares its family perspective of what it meant to us as a family and raising them. So all of those kind of things are addressed. They're addressed tastefully. The graphics on the website are written in a way that they educate rather than aggravate or whatever other word you want to use. They're designed to answer questions matter of fact because that's what we're about.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's exactly what it takes. And I like to say we're not trying to normalize nudity. We believe it's already normal. We're just trying to let everybody else know, hey, we were intended to live this way. And of course, the infamous line, that's how we were born. And there's some truth to that. And we could have come out in tuxedos and evening gowns and shoes and jewelry and everything else. But we were born naked as can be. Not one baby, as far as I know, has ever been born wearing clothes. So when you put it in simple terms like that, at first people laugh, and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe there is something to this. And so little by little, we're getting there. And I always say we will get there. It might not be by tomorrow, but it might be 1,000 years. But Eric, we're going to live another 1,000 years, so we'll get this done. How's that for a plan?
It is a plan, and like I said, we're off to a good start. AANR has 100 years, almost 100 years, collectively under its belt, or maybe with no belt, as we have been, but 95 years and counting towards that goal, and so much accomplished since then. So much resolve and bravery shown in the 30s and 40s when this was quite a novel concept.
Yeah, very much so. And that was ERICH SCHUTTAUF, the longtime executive director for ANNR. And on next week's show, which will be episode 179, part 2 with ERICH SCHUTTAUF. And before we head for the hills until next Wednesday's show, let's bring back in our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Welcome back, Lisa.
It's good to be back. I have fresh coffee for you, and so I come bearing gifts.
Wow. See, I'm not totally used to people serving me coffee. Just be forewarned, I could get used to this really quickly.
I'm thinking that you probably already are, but anyway, it's okay. Every now and then, you can bring me coffee, you can bring Jennifer coffee, we can bring you. It's okay.
Well, I do. I serve everybody around here a lot, thinking this will pay off down the road. It still hasn't. I'm still dry as can be over here. I'm just kidding.
Hey, the payback is that we're doing the same thing for you. How about that?
That's true. And we do get along well. We help each other out, and that makes life a whole lot more pleasant for us, doesn't it?
This is a great group of people, and I think part of it's because they are naturists. We kind of sort of hinted around to people, hey, this is a naturist group, and if you're into that. And I think we actually had one person who wasn't, who said, well, I'll give it a shot, and then they came and they love it now. They're probably more so than the rest of us, so it's not a bad thing.
It's working out really well. And Lisa, with that, let's head for the hills, and I'll see you on next Wednesday for, believe it or not, episode 178.
Wow.
You promise to stay naked as a jaybird until then? If so, we'll get together.
I sure do promise that, and you too.
All right. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Good. Bye-bye.
Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 177 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. and on most Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.